I've come out to this forest today, which is one of the larger forests in the county, to have a look around. There are a few historical stories of encounters with cats out here, or a black cat. So I'll tell you one of those, and it relates to a colleague of mine who used to work out here with the forestry in the 1990s. And he was working by himself one day, away from the rest of the squad, and he just got this feeling that he's being watched. So he stood, looked around, and next minute he sees this black cat that sort of comes along, looks at him, leaps up on a log, goes along the log a bit, and leaps off back into the forest. So he's left standing there thinking, did I really just see that? And he's a bit shocked because he was new to the area and had no idea these things were about. So he went back to the rest of the crew, and his boss must have thought there was something wrong with him because he asked, "Are you okay?" And the guy said, "Well, I'm not really sure. I think I just saw a big black cat." And his boss just sort of chuckled and said, "Oh, I see it all the time." So if I could find out who that was, I think I'll get a good few stories of him as well. And then there's another, oh, just a moment. The arm's falling off me. There's another story, another colleague who, about 3 years ago now, I think it was early January, he took his quad bike off up the track on the other side of the forest, and his intention was to clear away some of the lower hanging branches which were starting to block his particular tracks that he used. So as he went out, there'd been fresh snow, so he saw some deer tracks in the fresh snow, so he stopped, got off and had a look, and there were these 3-inch cat paw prints, and he knew they were a cat, he said. So I said, "Well, what did you do?" And he said, "I got back on my quad bike and went home." So obviously he did, with him being fresh, he thought it's probably still about, so I'm off. And that's actually close to the spot where I found paw prints in snow as well. Slightly smaller, but 2-inch. That could be maybe a big wildcat, possibly, I don't know. Still, it's quite surprising to find that just weeks after he told me about that story. And up here, about maybe a mile or so away, a couple of years ago, I found a couple of paw prints. I think it was four paw prints, just on the edge of the road. But I had no plaster to cast them with at the time, but I have it now. So maybe if I find some more prints, I can sort of cover them up and then come back with plaster. But we'll see what we find, if anything at all. And if I can recall any more information about this particular area, I'll share it with you. But I'm going to stop filming now because my arm's just about falling off me. Now here's a print at the side of the road. 1, 2, 2, 3. Now obviously the fourth toe's there. The question is that stone in the ground already when it made the impression, or did it fall in afterwards? So what we'll do is we'll look at it just now as it is. First thing to note, I'm not seeing any claw marks. Wait though, that might be one, possibly. It's hard to see in this kind of material because it's not just simply mud, it's got loads of little stones and everything in it. So, right, I know what we'll do is we'll pull that stone out and see what we get. It's okay. Well, there's a mark of the stone definitely, so I think the stone was there when the impression was made, so this toe was raised up when it's made the impression. Now, I would say this is more canine looking. However, there is a matter of no claw marks. So I think we'll leave that as an undecided. Probably canine. There's a couple of more impressions here. See which way round they are. We'll leave that as that. We'll keep an eye out and see if we see anything else. This is something I do when I'm out in the forest like this. Because it's predominantly pine, I always look for trees like this that might provide good scratching posts should a cat come past and fancy a scratch. So since I got into this sort of line of research, I've consulted a lot of different sources for information, and that includes like other researchers, various documentaries, books, that sort of thing. And one book I read was a collection of stories from a chap called Jim Corbett. Now, he lived in India in the 20s and 30s. He's long since dead, and he used to go. His job was to kill man-eating leopards and tigers. So his books are full of the stories of that, on how he tracked them and how he made the kill and everything, and the experiences of the people who were suffering at the hands of these cats. So it's very interesting. But one thing I did learn was that he would say that the cats, they'll follow man-made tracks, but they won't walk on the track like a hard surface like this track that I'm on, because they have soft paws and they might cut the paws. But he says you will find occasional prints, but that's just where they happen to cross the road. They won't walk along it. They'll be to one side or the other in the bush. So while I'm walking along here, if I see a track like that one back there, that's just because they happen to cross over there. Of course, that necessarily isn't a cat print, but it did look a bit odd. But I'm not going to claim it as one. So there's lots of useful sources, but I do recommend reading Jim Corbett's books, because apart from nothing else, they're ripping yarns. And I think people back then were made of sterner stuff than they are now today, I can tell you that. But you'll know that if you go and read the books. And I think that's enough waffling. I think I'll carry on now. Okay, I'll show you this print I've just noticed. I didn't see this on the way in. There you go. So that's just under 3 inches wide. It looked pretty good with this here. Spray to the toes and that. But as you can see, claw mark there. A slight claw mark there. So sometimes prints can throw you. I'll still take a photograph and get it checked anyway. You never know. I've come back out to make a cast of this print that I found yesterday. So I've made this little card collar to go around it just to prevent too much spray of plaster and waste of plaster as well. So I'll get that mixed up now. I'm going to end up with loads more plaster than what I need. Guaranteed. Maybe, hopefully. Maybe a bit thin yet. No, that's a lot better. Pushing out the watery stuff. Well, this is dry, and I'll just take a look around the area just in case there's anything else to see. I have a wee update from this morning from when I was taking the cast and waiting for it to dry. I was speaking to a woman who was out walking her dogs. Now, I got on the subject of cats as to why I was there, and she mentioned a couple of things that were interesting. First of all, she said that on occasion she's heard unusual bird-like sounds. That was her words, unusual bird-like sounds. And also 3 weeks ago, she was up in this particular spot where I am now, and her dog went running off in under the bushes, as she said, and came back with a deer's leg. So, if there's a deer's leg, there must be a carcass in here somewhere. Now she said under the bushes, but there's no bushes as such here. So what I'm going to do is follow the line of the forest just in this small area and just see if I can find anything. And maybe we'll get lucky, we might find some bones, and then maybe we can, if there's bones, we can look for tooth pits possibly. Of course, the carcass, it might have just been poached or a natural death, we don't know. But we'll see if we can find anything and have a look at it. I suppose we'll get going now. Okay, we'll go along this way, I'll look and see. Difficult ground to cover, really, all the branches and whatnot. I know, I'll put away the phone just now and or the camera and come back in a little while. I'm not finding anything so far, but when I was further back there, I heard the thud sound. Whenever I'm out in the forest by myself, if I hear any noise, I tend to get sort of a bit concerned, wondering what the hell's going about. Probably nothing to worry about, but that's just me. Right, we'll go look over here as well. And I'll come back in a little while. Well, I'm not finding anything at all. But this was 3 weeks ago. A lot can happen to a carcass in that time. If you've ever watched one of the time-lapse videos of carcasses left out, you know how quickly they decay and get broken up and disappear effectively. Bits get dragged away and all that. You know? So I would imagine that's what's happened here. But I'll still may come back another look round just in case. But for now, I think I'm going to just go over to another part of the forest on the bike and have a wee look round there. But I think that's it for today's video anyway. It's long enough as it is.